All right, today we are digging into what seems like a classic David versus Goliath story. Brazil's massive farming industry going up against the super high standards of the European Union. But what if I told you the roles in that story are not at all what they seem? Let's get into it. So, just for a second, when you picture a really high-tech advanced farm, what pops into your head? Is it, a perfect orderly field somewhere in Europe? Or could it be a huge tech-heavy farm down in tropical Brazil? Just keep that image in mind. Because the reality here is, well, it's a huge paradox. It's a story about some really groundbreaking technology and about two agricultural giants with completely different ideas about how to grow food for the future. Okay, so let's start with the main event, this clash of the titans. The story that we usually hear is pretty simple, right? It usually goes something like this. The EU, with its incredibly strict rules on safety and the environment, they're the good guys, the gold standard. And Brazil? Well, Brazil is often painted as the total opposite. But that's not even close to the full picture.
And boom, here's our first big twist. You've got the EU pointing fingers at Brazil for its pesticide use, but get this. Many of the biggest companies making and selling those exact pesticides, they're European. It's this weird, circular relationship that, as you can imagine, creates a whole lot of tension.
And this is where things get really interesting. It all starts with what I like to call the pesticide paradox. This is where that simple good guy, bad guy story just completely falls apart. So get this. Brazil gets a lot of criticism for using a lot of pesticides. But guess who's developing, making, and selling a ton of those pesticides? Yep, some of the biggest chemical companies in Europe. So the EU is profiting from the very thing they're also using as a reason to block trade. It's complicated. And look, if you just glance at the raw numbers, the criticism seems fair. This chart shows that by total volume, Brazil is a massive consumer of pesticides. But that's missing a huge piece of the puzzle. Brazil is in the tropics. They can get 2, sometimes even 3 harvests a year. Europe only gets 1. So of course the total amount is going to be higher. But now, watch what happens when we change how we measure it. What if we look at pesticide intensity? So how much is used for every ton of food they produce? Suddenly the whole picture flips. Brazil is right there with, and sometimes even better than several EU countries. It turns out, efficiency is everything.
It all comes down to one word: productivity. See, Brazil's tropical climate is a game changer. A farmer there can get 2, sometimes even 3 harvests a year from the same plot of land. Meanwhile, a farmer in Europe gets just 1. So they're just growing a massive amount more food, which explains why the total volume of stuff they use is higher, even if they're using it more efficiently for each thing they grow. Makes sense, right?
So now that we've poked some holes in that simple story, let's build up the counter-narrative. Let's talk about Brazil's unbelievable agricultural revolution and how it became this tropical tech powerhouse. The engine behind all of this is an organization called Embrapa. Honestly, you can think of it as Brazil's secret weapon. They didn't just try to copy-paste farming from Europe or the US. No, they wrote a completely new playbook, one designed from the ground up for tropical conditions. And maybe their greatest trick was cracking the code of the Cerrado, this huge tropical savanna. They took this soil that everyone thought was acidic and basically useless for farming, and through some really incredible science, we're talking super precise soil treatments, they turned it into some of the most productive farmland in the world. Another thing Brazil is a world leader in is something called no-till farming. So you know that classic image of a farmer plowing a field, turning all the soil over? Forget it. With no-till, they plant new seeds directly into what's left over from the last harvest. It's an absolute game changer for keeping soil healthy. And the benefits are just massive. No-till farming actually sucks carbon out of the air and locks it into the soil. It stops the soil from washing away, it keeps moisture in the ground, which is crucial as the climate changes, and it means farmers burn way less diesel in their tractors. A lot of European farms are still relying on plowing, so they're really behind on this. And the innovation just keeps coming. Brazil is making a huge shift away from traditional chemical pesticides and toward biologicals. We're talking about using things like helpful fungi and bacteria to fight off pests. The market for this stuff is absolutely exploding there, growing way, way faster than the rest of the world. And check this out. For their soybeans, Brazilian farmers are using these special bacteria, inoculants, that literally pull nitrogen out of the thin air and feed it to the plants. This means they've been able to massively cut back on synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, which, by the way, are a huge source of greenhouse gas emissions over in Europe. So you see, what we're really looking at here isn't just a difference in farming techniques. This is a deep, fundamental clash of philosophies about the future. You've got two completely different paths forward. On one side, you have Brazil's innovation-driven approach. They see new tech, drones, biotech, GMOs, and they adopt it fast. If it works, they use it. Then on the other side, you have the EU's precautionary principle. Everything is super regulated, they're much more cautious and way slower to bring in new technologies.
So you see, it's really important to understand this isn't a simple case of good guys versus bad guys. It's not sustainable versus unsustainable. What we're actually looking at is a clash between two completely different and frankly highly developed philosophies on how to farm and feed the world.
And this all brings us to the real heart of the debate. We're talking about two competing ideas of what sustainability even means. It kind of forces us to ask what green farming really is. The truth is, sustainability isn't some simple checklist that's the same everywhere. It's always a balancing act, you know? It depends on your local climate, your economy, your specific challenges. What's sustainable in France might be totally different from what works in central Brazil. Let's just break this down. When it comes to land conservation, Brazilian law actually makes farmers keep anywhere from 20 to 80% of their land as native forest. That's a much bigger deal than in the EU, where most native forests were chopped down centuries ago. For productivity, Brazil is all about high-tech efficiency, growing more on the same land. The EU, on the other hand, often uses subsidies to prop up smaller, more traditional farms. And the pace of innovation? Well, we've seen how different that is. You know, there's a quote from the source material that just nails it, describing Brazil's modern farm sector as a high-tech tropical lab. It's not just about farming, it's about constant invention and pushing the limits. Now look, we have to be super clear here. This does not mean Brazil doesn't have serious, very real problems, especially with illegal deforestation in the Amazon. But it is so important to separate that issue from the country's legal, industrialized agricultural industry. That industry is, without question, one of the most sophisticated on the planet. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. As our world faces some pretty huge challenges, what's the best way to feed everyone? Is the future of farming going to be led by caution and regulation, or by the powerful, sometimes messy engine of rapid innovation? The answer to that is going to shape what's on all of our plates for years to come.